All right, peace, everyone. As soon as you get questions, let me know. I got a lot of questions to go through. I'll be here till 9 o'clock. So any questions you have, I'll be back at the school very soon too. Couldn't happen this week, but that was with a good reason, not a negative reason. So when I get back to the school, it'll be useful. All right, so what are the questions we have? Okay, I want to give a chance for everybody to ask what they would like to ask. All right. Appreciate that, 793rd. Yeah. Honestly, I haven't heard anything bad. Everybody seems to be okay. So that doesn't mean that people are okay. I didn't know anybody directly that was involved in that, or indirectly, so. All right. There's a few people in here. Let me know if you have any questions and stuff. I have a lot of questions from some students. Some students I didn't get a chance to answer back, so I thought it would be valid to answer them back here and useful. All right. DJ Rackman, peace. I've never seen you in here. Any questions that you have about this course? This is right now the online version. We should, hopefully by next week but definitely by May, I will be back at Allah School of Mecca, still streaming, as we've been doing it since 2020, this add-on, streaming also. So this is the Peace course, Political Education and Civilization Enrichment. How to deal with the outside world, political education, civilization enrichment, the science of everything in life. merging these two ideas into a curriculum of things that I teach, that I live, that I know. You know what I mean? Um, and hope to be useful. What is the goal of the classroom? What is the goal of this class and its curricula? To find your talents along with realizing who you are and reaching that level. Okay. All right. So I assume that you are checking the class though when after it's online. You know. And if anybody has any questions about things that were in past classes or anything like that, um, ask them. They're very useful. They're very necessary. All right. Very necessary. Please don't feel like it's old or it's repetitive, or even if you have the same question but would like a different or more detailed explanation. Okay, Allah, love, peace. Again, any questions where you're at, or if you have knowledge, though, let me know where you're at. Though these classes, though, I'm not. I could lecture here about all types of things I would like people to know. Okay, um, I could do that, and honestly, when I write about music and stuff, that's what I do. But I I think in the classroom of the knowledge of self, it doesn't suit the teacher to not know who are those people that I'm teaching and what is their perception of their themselves, right? What is the knowledge of that they have of themselves at the current moment? You know what I'm saying? All right. So I'll give a few minutes for people to get some questions, and then I will start answering some questions that I have. Okay, what do peace, divine truth? There's a thing that I say about a law school in Mecca. I'll say it again because people, you know, I think Dark Kim, I didn't get to check all of his videos and keep in tune. I know Dark Kim is most likely by the titles of his videos and what he's been doing is giving sufficient insight into these SOS things that you may have heard of about law school. Um, I think that in my position at law school in Mecca, I ought to be kept in the loop. But not everything is up to it's not my work. You know what I mean? I know what my work is in there and I know what I need to do. And I'll be back there doing that directly, teaching. Okay. So, with that said, there's also some other things I'm going to offer at a law school in Mecca because I'm not sure. Uh, Honestly, I guess I would use this class online session here as a poll and really let me know if you're saying yay or yes to it, if you're actually able to, if you're in the New York City area or you know somebody, because it means more, obviously. But I have some students I train in the martial arts though, and as I let people know, I get paid for that. You know what I'm saying? That takes a lot of time, and the type of teaching is different. I invest much extra time, but I may be teaching. I may teach occasionally, maybe like every 2 weeks at a law school in Mecca, some martial arts. If I do it, it changes the dynamic. Those students that were my students, they would pay if they were learning there. But if people walk in to learn, I wouldn't charge them. Everything would be donations. You know what I'm saying? Um, just so as the summer months, people could get really into something. The truth is that the real martial artists will be doing stuff and learning from me during those colder months. And there's always very few of those, you know. Um, but the type of program of martial arts that I teach, though, Shaolin Kung Fu, uh, through the lens of Wing Chun and the animal forms, these are ways to. It is what I like to call concentrated supremacy for many reasons. Um, the real goal of when I teach is really to get you introduced into the lifestyle. You know what I mean? And know how to use it, use it, live it, and then also find ways to be able to find a consistent school if you're interested, or other teachers on that level. You know? Okay. Peace, divine truth. Wise, you said N in the supreme alphabet. Is it now nation or end, or is it also now or end? I have nation. Okay, so you have the first one. People have now nation or end. I have now or end. Some people have now nation or end. I don't really disagree with it. The alphabet is interpretive. So if you understand the principles and how the alphabet always links up to the mathematics of that of its placement, right? Meaning N would be the 14th letter. So that knowledge culture born power would be very significant in the insight to it. In reality, crucial to the inside of it. And don't let people fool you. So that mixture of the math and alphabets, that's where it happens. The confusion is when it everything leads to confusion. So when you have rules like don't mix math and alphabet, I know I'm veering off here. If you have mixing math and alphabet, when you mix math and alphabet, like anything, when it becomes convoluted and it turns into a code and it turns into numerology where there's no real way to prove that the principle is true, or the code that is being outlined, like the final sentences of description, is not really useful for daily life, then you veered too far. And that could happen with anything. That certainly would happen with applying the mathematics to all of the degrees, meaning like in 120 lessons, right? Any set, any part of it, any part of the massive set. Uh, so be careful with that. You know what I mean? But now Nation of N, I remember Firstborn Prince had it, if I remember correctly. He had it in the one that he had. Mine's that I was given always had now or end. So I don't really build with nation. But when you build with nation, understand that nation comes from the word nacer, the Latin root, which means birthright. Okay? I think that nation is a very tricky word because it gets westernized. It is a Western word in this world. You know what I mean? And how it's used. And nations are really respected by what they've acquired and what they can muscle to continue to have. So we fall into pitfalls when we use those terms. Just like look at the biggest argument is actually not usually God, even though that's the most complicated word in the outside world, because we've definitively defined it. The most difficult word, and it always ends up being power, and that is a very westernized word, like, as far as perspective. Okay. Rome, my day is going very good. I have my oldest daughter with me, and I've been having a great day with her. You said they still got the basement. It's gym equipment at the school. I don't know. but I don't need equipment to teach a student like that. I don't need boxing equipment and things like that. Right? If I punch you, you're gonna get hit with this hand. You know, if you punch me, you'll be punching with this hand. Um, but there is equipment that I bring to show the students certain things. But no, I don't need like I could use equipment that is there if it's there, but I don't need equipment to teach you. You know, so other than I see all the times I go to the school, I don't really go to the basement. You know what I mean? So I don't really know what's being kept there. You know what I mean? Or what's going on there. You know, many of the reasons I would say I teach at a law school is so just people could see. I could spend more time at the school and see more of you come out. Uh, and also that the school has even more things to share and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because they're already doing so many good things there, so it's not even like a lot of times I don't feel that what I have to offer in that is necessary. So I think the gods with the boxing and the training and stuff has been excellent. So it just would be an add-on. I don't want it to be gratuitous either. You know, it just so happens that some students that's the best meeting point. So that's why I offer this. So if anybody in care would be interested, stuff. Not sure when I would do it though. It would be if it would be Saturday, Sunday. Certainly would be select weekends. You know what I'm saying? If I have my children with me, it's not gonna happen. All right. That's why I teach up here in Staten Island, and I think that what I'm sharing with students, if you really wanted to learn it though, and you use the excuse that Staten Island and up here in Staten Island is too far away, um, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because to learn something at the price that I give it at is worth that journey. You know what I mean? Um, Especially if you're a younger student. Some students are a little bit older and they have serious jobs to maintain and stuff like that. And I understand. So we'll work around things. And a law school in Mecca becomes that meeting point. But let me know if anybody wants to build and they want to ask more questions about it. They don't have to ask it during a classroom. You can always email me. So too, I've been working myself. I have some articles that I just started, and I haven't been able to really complete them properly. But the 5% media always needs writers. So if you write and you don't really know what to write about, I can always help you with that. If you have something you've written and you're not sure if it's good enough, I can always help edit give it the direction that it needs. Maybe it's just missing something you have to add to it. You may not know, or it just needs, if you write something and you just think that your grammar's off, though, you'll never learn if you don't show it. So I can never help anybody's writing if I don't see your writing. Right? That's an actual fact. It's like nobody can help you work, train better. Nobody can help you do certain things better if they don't hear it, if they don't see it. Right? In this case, read it. All right, so I have to read it though. Sometimes, by the way, some of you write though. I know that you all can write, and I also know that some of you need help. So all that shit about, I was just jotting it down and stuff like that. That works sometimes, but some of y'all need just more practice. More practice. It's not really about that you can't write. Peace halftime. All right, so nothing's happening with anybody. All right, so let's see if I could fish out these questions that I have. Okay, I have them listed in my class notes. Let's see. I have to extend them because it looks too small. I can't read them. I have a lot of questions actually, so hopefully I could get through them. All right, I'll start. Let me look really quick here. I will start here with some of the questions. I don't know if the God Malik is online now, but he had some questions. Good questions. All right, all right. All right, he asked me, I'm looking at the 20th degree in the 1 to 40 when Yaqub was creating or manufacturing the devil. Was it brown, then yellow, or a mixture of black, brown, yellow at one time? Give me a moment. Give me a moment here. My child is calling me. My other one. Let's see if you can answer that question. Okay, let me read that question again because I didn't read it very well. In the 20th degree, in the 1 to 40, right? So about Yaqub manufacturing the devil, it gives an order. So was it brown then yellow, etc., or a mixture of black, brown, yellow, and at one time on the island of Patmos? There's a lot of questions in here. It's just I'll start with that one. All of humanity was already mixed, right? So it's in the extraction process that they become separated. Okay. It's in the selection process, right? The doctors and ministers. So they're actually separated from each other, not from the society, but through the activities that they are allowed to do. In this case, breeding and the nature and in the way and in the time that they will breed, right? So then that's how they would be separated. Okay. So that's the way it would be. You know, it's not like they just took one particular seed and brought them here. No, the whole society is commingling, but they are separated through the actions that they're allowed, right? That's why the doctor examines and the minister, you know what I'm saying? Um, and the minister, verifies, right? And I know every time I click to a tab, this thing is just, I don't know, it's reloading on me. All right, give me a moment to get, I have to reload it again. If I ever answer a question here that doesn't make sense, please ask questions. Okay. So remember, the breeding process is something that doesn't have to happen by an overt extraction and a segregation of the population into seeds that are visible. It just needs to happen in this case, though, and what is suggested by the wisdom build degree is that they are separated by their seeds in the actions that they are allowed and in the results of their actions. Obviously, the nurse, the nurse sticking a pin, right? And all of this goes cohesively because the realities of the destruction are destroyed by what? You know what I mean? The cremators, right? And that's why it's important when we say the minister who would marry. The marry is very important because the marry is who's going to breed. Okay. All right. I'm not going to continue with the line of questions. Let me take a break from Malik's questions. Allah love, you have a question here. You said, peace. I'm fairly new to the nation. Is there Allah love for always be in the future, right? When you're building, right? And this may not be comfortable for you in the online cipher, but in face to face where you are, you introduce yourself by where you're from, how long you've been in this, and always be particular with how long you've been in this, though. Okay, that counts for years, months, and days. It gives people a perspective. Is there ever a point or degree you reach as God where you are no longer required to answer what and how you see the day's mathematics? I think, let's say for myself, people aren't asking me that. It just changes. This is something that we actually use a lot of. Like we're actually using it. It is not a test. We get tested on it. But when people ask me now, it's really to ask me like how I'm really using it, like of interest. I would hope, and not just like to be corny and try to inspect. So we're actually using this in our daily lives, though, to analyze things. You know what I mean? To link it up to the way that we intend to build, the projects we intend to do, all of these things. So I would think that when we're asked, let's say someone like myself who's been in this over 20 years, if we're asked that, if I'm asked, I would hope that people really care about the way that I'm using it. Okay, because of course it would be kind of like a little wasteful to just be asking me, how I see it and stuff like that, just to test me or something like that. It's just an elder of mine. Jarrell, you said peace. Today's math is knowledge, culture, all being born to power, cognizance, right? One of thoughts and actions. We consider thoughts and actions, right? Transitioning into generation of focus. So thoughts and actions are the wisdom, right? Culture. That's the culture. Transitioning into generation of focus. Interesting. Power. The generation of focus, power. Necessitated for vitality and mobilization. Very good. Very good. I liken this to a premeditated lifestyle. Mastery of mindful introspection and freedom through the scope of a focused, sustainable capacity. Great high language. Jarrell, I would like to see that in a more common language, a more youthful directed language, but but definitely not throwing away that. That's incredible. That's a very good build. I'm very impressed with that. I really like it. See, when someone builds like this, a lot of love, for that person using it, I would say like you would simplify it for someone else. But for himself, this is a daily directive he's devised for himself. And it could be very, very powerful when they are understood by yourself and utilized in that way. They could be very powerful. Right? Excellent. Excellent work. All right. Malik, peace to God. I just answered your first question. Let me get to the next one. All right. I'll be here till 9 o'clock. So because no one has really asked me too many questions, I'm just going to go through all the questions that I have from students. Okay. Especially you and O, because you've asked the most. So I'll probably just get through yours because it's a lot. What were the rules and regulations not mentioned in this lesson? What are the rules of oppression? What are the distinct things of oppression? What are the other degrees, and like in the 1 to 14, that clue you into oppression? You know what I'm saying? Right? These are all the rules and regulations not mentioned in this lesson. You know what I mean? And the truth is, one of the realities is for you to find out, for you to see it. You know what I mean? Right? For you to analyze and go deeper into things. So it's very important. You know? Okay. All right, here we are. And in the to me, the best way to find the rules and regulations is really to see is to be open to the idea of that oppression makes its own rules. You see, and they are always fluctuating, and that's why you cannot mention them all in the lesson. You know what I mean? But the fluidity, the convenient fluidity of the rule of law. You know what I mean? These are examples of rules and regulations not mentioned in the lesson. You know what I mean? Right? All right. What is a practical view of the sun and moon having attractive powers on a planet? I'm not really sure what you mean by this, because this is always a metaphor for man and woman. But in the case of the sun and moon, obviously the moon has water. It's pulling and is the cause of the tide. So that's the attractive powers. The sun causes everything, though. It is the lifeblood. So when you see plant life, from trees to plants to everything seeking sunlight, these are all the attracting powers in effect. It's just simple examples. You know what I mean? And when we talk about the interaction between man and woman, though, we obviously understand that these attraction powers are also based on that. What we can provide, right? Right? And the synergy that the righteous black woman can realize, you know what I mean, with her family, with her man, right? These are all real things. All right. What is a practical view of warm, current, and swift and changeable? All right, when we look at the weather, obviously, that's not too difficult to look at. But what we're looking at here also too, with the metaphor of the woman, is also the currents that they deal with, right? And the currents that we have to deal with, though, the emotional currents, right? So these are that if you can control your currents, though, they can also be utilized. Any current can be utilized to some effect that is not just falling into it, but wisely being used. All right. All right, where are we now? All right, some words here. Allah love, you said pardon himself. My righteous name is Allah love Allah. I currently reside in Central Florida. I started getting Supreme Math and Alphabet lessons May 16, 2015 by my uncle. Allah Billah. That's peace. The reason I asked that question is because I came across a brother online yesterday who had a fly tassel crown bearing the universal flag. And when I asked the day's math, he said not to ask him. Yeah, that's why online interactions are never really useful like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, You know, he doesn't have anything to offer, so he's making it known that he won't offer anything. Right? That tells you everything like that, right? They have why would people wear something to be recognized and then not accept recognition? And that tells you your answer there, right? Why is you? I'll wait a little bit. I don't know if that's done, if what you wrote there is finished. So I'll just wait a little bit. Not really sure. All right, I finished answering those for Malik. So the other things were requests for certain things, and we had already built with that. All right, these questions, I'm continuing questions a lot. The God, and asked so many good questions. Do the number of the 9 born, that means the 9 firstborn students of Allah, his first 9 born that he named his first 9 born, have to do with the 9 planets? No, it's just that everything happens to go in accordance to that, though. But it has to just do with born, with this concept of born. You know what I mean? That 9 is born, the number of fulfillment, what I like to call elevated fulfillment. You know what I mean? Completion, and that's why, you know what I mean, and it symbolized that, you know what I mean. All right. Question: how do you write your history? Well, the thing is, you write your history in advance. A very pompous concept. You write your history in advance so that it hasn't been lived out yet, but you're writing it, and then it will be lived. What it means, though, is that you plan and you have the fortitude to fulfill your plan. That's all that means. That is all that means. And see, not everyone fulfills every part of their plan, but the fortitude to write down a plan realizes how useful it is, whether it is righteous or not, and whether you will continue to remind yourself of the word that you're keeping to yourself, that bond. And that's why writing your history in advance becomes so crucial. All right. Who came up with the measurements of the actual and solar facts? I can't say for sure, because most of them come from the Nation of Islam, and they probably just researched, almanacs and scientists and stuff. So these literal statistics were already accepted. I mean, in the actual facts and solar facts, there aren't many arguable things. There's just some of them are wrong, though, because of the way that they were transcribed incorrectly by certain gods, like the actual facts. I mean, excuse me, not the actual facts, but the degree and the inches of the planet Earth, right? For example, but no one that I know of could it would be reinventing the wheel, because most of these statistics were already configured before the Nation Islam even had them in theirs, and the father took it to complete that 120 concept. The square inches of the planet Earth is something that he added, though. Right? 5, what qualifies you to be God? Okay, no one can really qualify you. And I say that because no one really has that kind of power over anyone else, though. But you can be qualified by the consensus of humanity, by being righteous, by building, by showing and proving that you are studying, by showing and proving that you are living it out, by showing and proving that that you are writing your history in advance, right? These are the ways to prove it, though. But who qualifies you? Those who you have qualified as those gods that are sufficient teachers. So people like my enlightener and elders that I knew and know, they can qualify me. You know what I mean? But not some schlum that has just wearing a flag. You know what I mean? Could have got it out of Walmart. Right? What's the reward for being God? Is there a penalty? This is something that's in the degree, but to me, that's where it really gets realized is like Muslim teachings. I don't bear witness to any reward. I don't think there is a reward to being myself, but just the glory of being myself. Is there a penalty? Um, the nature of being ourselves is being God. The nature of being God is to build and create and support those creations. And to offer the responsibility of offering yourself to humanity. And I think that the penalties of destruction around oneself, um, a worse reality that you take no part in to try to amend, is penalty enough. And that's why nobody can really give it to you per se. Today's okay. YG, you said today's math is no one knowledge. Your direction in life with the gathered information, data, and results of how to use your energy and time daily. Didn't fully plug in the math. Your direction would be culture, and the energy and time used is power. Okay. All right. So know your direction in life. Uh, with the gathered information is culture, and the results of how to use your energy and time daily is fine. Um, Interesting. You said the gathered information, data, and results is culture. I don't know. I don't know if that would be. You know, I'm not sure if that would be your culture. You know, it's like you're a robot. You know, and I don't know. I don't know if that I would call it that. You know, yeah, I don't think I would call it that. But I see where you're going with it. That's something to fish out a little bit more. You know, work on that a little bit more. I'll make an announcement.
That's so embarrassing.
All right, next question. All right. I've never been asked this. I gotta say, can you ever have too much knowledge? No. Can you be afraid to have too much knowledge? Yes. Can I think people have a fear of over processing, you know, and it allows them to have an excuse to not continue. But no, I don't think so. You know, it's in the processing. You know, I usually overburden myself with information. So what happens is that I would like to think that the things that are most useful, usually the things that I immediately understand, get utilized and stick, and those that I realize are useful and have to research later get checked out later. Um, but that's how you do it. You keep adding stuff. You know what I mean? Stuff is not everything is going to go, because by that perspective, you would read any type of useful book, and you would read it so slow until you get everything memorized, able to be utilized, and that type of forever process is not very useful. Right? Malik, you said awareness of the culture is best when you have an understanding of the total sum of activities and the powers realized by that influence. Understanding of the total sum of activities. It's so simple, but a total sum of activities would be culture. And I think wise you when you said gathered information, data, and results. I think you gave it more of a computerized, a more digitized, a more lifeless description there. But that was kind of, I think, what you were going with that. You know, so that's why the wording is important. So, but yeah, I see where you're going, wise you. But Malik, that is very good. Right, very good. All right. And again, I'll be here for another hour, 9 o'clock. Uh, are the 48 Laws of Power right and exact? Absolutely not. Absolutely a great read. Because it's a really a fun book to read. You know what I mean? It has so many useful insights and perspectives that even those that I find completely disagreeable and apply the principles completely wrong, like the 48th law is about emptiness and it totally misapplies it. But you see how you learn how information can be used fiendishly, fiendishly, and that's very useful. You know what I'm saying? Um, so it's definitely a useful read. You know, all of his books, Robert Greene's books, are very useful. Uh, I would immediately recommend reading that. I would immediately recommend reading the 50th Law, the one he did with 50 Cent, because the 50th Law is overcoming fear, and that's the entire 1 to 36. Right? Right. Question: at what point did the gods realize there is no mystery God? That's a good point, and I think that's something that could also keep us searching for years. Like, what point do we realize there's no God? I would say when we don't know the exact time, like the exact moment of what transpired to say no. But the reality is that when would it happen? It would happen when there is no technical use being drawn. You know what I'm saying? Nothing useful is happening, right? So that's what. Right? In other words, we ask a question, and when this question is answered, is there going to be a real use for this answer? Um, does this answer is this questioning better than questioning whether we are the true living God, as opposed to seeking outside of ourselves? You see, because which direction do you take? Do you say, I'm going to spend my life showing and proving that the one person that's been responsible for everything crucial, let's spend the time answering if that is me, because it continues to be so, or an outside reality that continues to be incomplete? And so that would be the point where they would say it is a wasteful question, because there was a more useful question that has had a better consistency of answer, right? And then that would be us. Right? What's the importance of an attribute? I think that I don't like to use the word attribute, although some people have words that are descriptive words. They have straight adjectives as their names. Um, I think that a name is something. The importance, though, of a name is something that I can answer to. The importance of a name tells not just those who are saying your name, but tells you first, and is part of your inner dialogue of speaking to you of who you are, who you intend to be, and what you damn well will be. And if to me those criteria are not matched in the name you've chosen for yourself, then your name is missing something. You know, that would be the way that I would answer that immediately. 79030, you said recognizing and acknowledge the particulars of how you're living, which encompasses one's conclusions, ways, and actions that have developed clear pictures of reality. In doing that, in doing so, I am able to consciously be aware of not only what drives me, but those factors that I have excelled in that I am able to display that helps myself and others. The particulars. The particulars. Very good. Very good. Question: how smart is the devil? I'd say he's very smart because he has a form of intelligence that is very predicated on cunning, you know, and it might not be as technically overall not technically smart as a true and living, but it is certainly smart. You know what I mean? And it is smart in so many wrong ways that it becomes quite potent. You know. All right, question: how important is it to come to Mecca? And I assume Harlem. It isn't very important that you come to Mecca. It is more. It is important that you get in touch with Mecca. That you get in touch with the gods in Mecca. That you know the roots of it. That you know its history. Right? That you verify the road that you have taken wherever you are at. And that's what's important. That's what's important. Question: are the gods feared or loved? If I spoke personally, I would say loved, but in many respects, I think I would have to say due to a lot of the jealousy and a lot of the star screams out there, um, it's definitely a lot of fear that gets expressed as hatred, you know. But generally in my life, though, I have generally received this love, you know. What's so I can't really speak for the gods as a whole, you know what I'm saying? I would think it'd be different for every person, you know. I think that the reason we see in general such a flux between people say, "Oh, the gods used to teach out there and everybody knew it." A lot of the old ways of teaching, though, were based on enforcement, and that breeds fear, and not really like a real respect for it, though, that would do it by themselves. And that's what really happens, though. You know, people will live out something that is enforced daily and realize it is good for them and continue. But there comes a time where they have to do it themselves, and you'll always see the numbers plummet when that happens. Right? What's the relationship between the gods and Africans? I would say I think you're saying gods and Africans from Africa. Um, I think this. I think that particularly because the majority of people that got knowledge and are those first gods, the majority are African American, and they read the lessons, especially the one at 36. You know what I mean? I think sometimes they do have a resentment for other original people because they are so maligned. And that has nothing to do with them being God. It has to do with them being African American. And it's a fact. Um, this isn't incorrect, though. Incorrect feeling. Um, no original group, no made grouping, because African American is a made grouping. No made grouping is more maligned by other original people than the so-called African American. You know what I mean? And Africans would be on that list, just like Latinos would be, and any other original people in regards to African Americans. But all original people have some type of relationship that is negative in this way. You know what I mean? I think that the relationship between those with the knowledge, gods that's supposed to be, and Africans, anybody else, other original people, should be much better. But I think that in general, one of the things that our nation needs is we have a very poor education of the other cultures of original people, meaning the journeys by which they get to knowledge. You know what I mean? Right. Question: location-wise, where is the best part? Where's the poor part? Poor parts in Europe, best parts Mecca. Here, this Mecca. Why do I say that? Say the worst part is in Europe because all this heinous reality begins there. Um, it still takes roots there, even though America continues to be the leader. It gets reinvigorated. So even though that kind of fluctuates, we could pick America or we could pick anywhere else. Um, the reason I say Mecca is the best part and why people have ignorance of that is that I always tell you that anyone can figure out that they are the true living God with some type of science and some type of form of logic. However, in the reality of things, though, in the last 50 plus years, it's really just been us who have overtly taught this. And for that reason, though, this still is the best part. You know what I mean?
I have no idea, but it might be.
Is a seed born God? Um, every seed is original, is God or earth. Okay. What we deal now, though, is the nurturing of that seed. Just like any type of seed that is planted, will it become the plant? Will it become the tree that is expected to and that it can be? Okay?
It's actually so funny. Watch the trailer.
Are all gods equal? I would like to think so. I would like to think so. But one of the I would like to think so, but one of the difficulties in that aspect of equality is that when we talk about the real question is about the best knower. Who are the best knowers in each situation, and do we know how to do that? That it's whether we deal with equality that makes us equal, right? And a lot of people in the nation don't know how to do that, because we're all learning. We're all learning. We're all learning this. You know what I mean? Another aspect. Yeah, you know what? That's pretty much it. I think that we have a problem though with verifying the best knower and taking on the mantle of things, and that leads to the seeming realities of inequality, disrespect, things like that. But all gods are supposed to be in equality. But that means that one has to have a real cultural reality where we know how to shift between the respect from best knower to best knower upon each situation in reality. Right? Is city science right and exact? City science just means more of a local reality of science, local realities. Um, Getting out of the head of the deeper science that may not have a daily application and remembering that, so that's what that means. So it is like all science supposed to be right and exact. Okay. But that's the term the father made. The city science is right and exact. How important is imagination to create? It's everything. The world that we create is created. You know what I mean? Creator creates creation, and creation inspires creator by realization, by education of his own reality to create once again. Okay? Is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding used to imagine something? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's the only way things are. You know what I'm saying? It's either your knowledge, wisdom, understanding, or your incorrect knowledge, right? Your misuse of it, right? And the leading misunderstanding, perception, and lens that you deal with it. So even so, all creation is under this framework, right? And of course, under that negative reality, it wouldn't be creation, right? But it would be something that could be made still, right? May not last, it may not be suitable, but it would be so. All right.
So basically, you just have to like cancel the information because that's what happened to me. Good thing I only have like 2 weeks left until it would review the entire thing.
Okay.
But I think they're gonna like refund it.
Mr. G1 Peace, you said we brought up the word nation in regards to Supreme Alphabet.
Just check your email.
Student Roman, it mentions original nation in reference to original man, and then following degree mentions colored people without nation in reference to them as not a nation. Now, my next point is in the 1 to 14 mentions half original as well as they are original people. Does that term original people mean to refer being half original as opposed to original nation? That's a good question. For me personally, I think maybe you put too much into that. Um, Again, a nation is a group of men, women, and children for a common cause, though, that are based on a certain birthright. So technically, the devil could make a nation. You know what I mean? Right? And lead a nation. Whether it would be righteous enough to last, that'd be another question. Right? Um, does that term original people mean to refer to being half original as opposed to original nation? No, I don't think when they say original people versus original nation, I don't think those are differences. I think those are emphasis. So it doesn't like it's not a different type of original.
I have to watch that. That one I have saved. Oh my god. Yeah, he's like taking over stuff because he was close. He has to get out of the whole
I'm trying to read this again, G1, because it really is.
It's so good. I haven't finished it just because I'm like 90% of it, and it's crazy. I was like,
yeah, because I watched like the first two episodes, but I was confused because they weren't giving me any reference yet.
I mean, because when we talk about nations, right?
it's so confusing.
In the 1 to 10, it says nations other than Islam. You know. But yeah, I wouldn't put too much emphasis on that. No.
And you see the girl, Gabby, or whatever her name is.
I don't know.
It's so confusing, but like I think it's more for people who read manga and they know what's going on.
Okay. Peace-wise Prince.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's like
This guy.
yeah. So
And he got his look.
mm-hmm.
He got his power.
Exactly. He has the founder's power. And then he was like, no, we need to go across the sea and like kill them all. But once the first like 3 episodes go in, then you like really get into how it's all merging. And the entire season is basically explaining how it goes to the present and then it goes about the story on how they got to the present. So that's
Okay. So it starts here.
All right, more questions. What's the best way to show and prove your God? The best way to show and prove your God is to prove that the original man is God, right? To prove that science. That's one way to verbally prove it, scientifically prove it, right? But then becomes the reality of what your actual life and your life works, right? All right.
yeah, it's so good.
So showing and proving that you're the true and living God is about showing and proving that you can prove that through the science of the degrees. Let's say you get complicated with the science of how you're the father of civilization in that lineage, the sciences behind it, the biochemistry, the biochemistry, the quantum mechanics, etc., right? But then also the deeds. Good question here. How do you resolve a conflict with another God? Also an 85 or 10%. They're a little bit different, but they're all the same though, right? They absolutely should all be based on peace. You know what I mean? They absolutely all should be based on knowing the situation, being expectant. If it's 85, then you know that you don't know about the consistency of that individual. If it's a 10% though, then it's hard to judge, because what would be a daily 10% that you would run into? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, as we learn, like the 48 laws of power, though, the tools of their warfare are not always physical, right? They're cunning, right? So it depends on what type of conflict we're talking about. When it comes to dealing with another God, it's to be straight up, it's to be as sincere as possible, right? And to express yourself sincerely.
One day, mom was making cake for my brother's birthday. Mom, can you go outside?
Okay.
Can I go outside to play with Mama?
Is power good or bad?
But no, at the backyard, okay?
It depends on how power is used.
Okay,
You see?
said Maria.
It depends how it is extended, right? So
While I was going to the Thanks, Maria. Yes, said Alma.
all right. Is power good or bad, right? When we look at the word power, right, and people say power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I don't bear witness to something that somebody should bear witness to that, though. The So we're looking at the conventional definition of power, it is good and bad. If we're looking at the way our culture extends its power, we're supposed to be gauging it. We're supposed to know how it goes. But once you live out your culture, the truth is that the way it interacts with humanity can always fluctuate. You may not always know exactly how it will go. And so your own works can have a power that could lead to negative situations or positive situations. So it's all dependent, right? It's all dependent, right? Let me see. I see some stuff right here. Okay, that's peace, God. That's peace, God. I'm glad. Powerborn, I admit this question is a little confusing, but are you asking if the third degree is calling the so-called Indians half original? Hey, peace, power. I don't know if that's what he was getting at. I don't think that you were G1. 'Cause obviously not. You know what I'm saying? The Indians are not half original. I think he was talking about Columbus, but all right. How important is awareness? Awareness is the knowledge, right? The continued ability to have awareness is the continued ability to extract knowledge from your own reality. In other words, the ideas, the insights, everything that is brewing within you doesn't exist unless you have awareness. All right. When you have your own original idea that can go through the mathematics, you have to have awareness of it first. Okay. So it is a root. How much knowledge should you share with an 85-year-old? You always share with anyone what you think to the best of your ability they could use. Okay. And of course you could this it's something that's practiced. For example, I'm teaching here to people that are asking these questions, but no matter what I have, because it goes out there to the world, I've already shared things that are way too much for certain people. Right. Hopefully I've explained it in some such way that it would be kind of useful, right? But face to face, individually, always to the best of your ability. Always to the best of your ability. You know? What's a God? Okay, another question here. We're almost finished with these questions. So I should have time to get some more builds from everybody or any questions that everybody has in the cipher. What's a God's justice living in the wilderness of North America? What's the penalty? Well, the penalty is continued oppression that we will have no matter what if we don't do anything. Reward, again, I don't really think of things like that. You know what I'm saying? Because to me, being a creator and just creating has been reward enough. Learning this knowledge and living a life that has gotten me to this knowledge itself has been reward enough. Because a lot of people, when you teach as long as I have and see so many people get to it and not deal with it for all types of reasons, you realize that this is something that has been worked toward to get to. You know what I mean? All right. How is cipher related to the woman? Good question. Um, if we look at like when we look at binary reality, there's only really two things going on: knowledge and cipher. Basically, what always will be and how it always will continue. Whatever vessel there is to always allow it to continue, meaning mathematics, the reality. And when we look at the original woman, though, she is always that vessel that allows all things that are right and exact, all things that are in ever existence to continue. Okay, that is a sometimes the questions that seem the most complex, I give the shortest answer to because that's really all you need. You know what I mean? How many mystery gods are there? An infinite amount, right? Because all of them have been created and made up. What took so long for the original man to know that he was God? It's not so much that they didn't that when we look at things like this, right? How long would it take? Um, in this grand scheme of things, so it didn't take but less than a quarter of a solar year, or as we call it, a Quran, right? So not very long, not very long in the scope of infinity, right? Now, what took so long? What took so long is that he himself, meaning we ourselves, our ancestors, right, veered into other realities. And because of those realities, we also found a way out of those realities by what? Constructing work out of the mystery. So even this whole reality of dealing with a mystery God, we have worked ourselves out of it. You know what I mean? By dealing with the mystery. Right? So everything has been made concrete. Right? It's an amazing concept if you really think about it for a minute. Besides culture, can you find freedom in all degrees of supreme math? I think the principles of the supreme mathematics are so universal that you can find it in all the degrees, right? Knowledge is very freeing. It has a little of freedom in it when you deal with it, right? The utilization of knowledge, wisdom has freedom in it, right? So yes, you know what I mean. You can find freedom in all of them, though, if you choose to define it that way. That's a certain reality that comes with positive terms, you know. And the last question here. Let's see, I feel like I did. I answer. Yeah, I did. What is the most important degree lesson? I don't. Obviously, the first degree. Who's the original man, right? Still, that's an important one. Man knows that one though, and knows by study and discipline and live life and awareness of his life that that is true. Then every other degree though he can actually find out much of it by himself, if not all of it. Okay. Okay, Malik, you said he actually. I think that was the last question that the God had. So let's see if I'm done with the questions. Yeah, I'm done with the questions that I have. If anyone has any more questions, if you sent me questions and I don't have it, throw them here right now. I'll answer them. Okay. Kasid, that thank you. If there's anything that I could be more informative with, please let me know. Peace, true divine. Always great to see you in here. Very true, PowerPoint. I will read that again. When you are hearing something you're not familiar with, but it sounds very interesting, the student has to be comfortable with not understanding it in the moment and take notes to research later. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Malik, you said I remember building with you earlier, and you mentioned the 1 to 36 was far was told him to sound just what would be his purpose in doing so? I don't think that he deliberately went him to that, Judge. It just so, from what I learned, it just so happened, right? And the conversation became a relevant way of sharing this information. All right. All right. So we have a half hour left. Certainly would like to hear what other people have to say about anything. Okay. And by the way, I should be at the school definitely by May, hopefully in the next week or two. Um,
Why do you make drinks? No, that's so good. So good. No, they're Korean.
all right. I said a lot, so a lot of times I answer these questions. I can only assume that I answered them so well that they needed no one's articulation. Excuse me.
What is this? Is that a bowl? No. It is. Put some butter on it.
You ruined my book again.
I'll put it in the toaster and then put some butter on it.
No. Put down my book.
Okay. In reference to how much you teach someone, yes, yes. In reality, when we teach students, though, like the more you teach people, the more you get a sense of if you're good at this. Some people just not good at this. They can only be good. They will live a life though knowing that they know something worthwhile, but they're not good at sharing it, so they can't be a good judge of how much to share. But if you become good at this, you can feel how much is too much. You know, the attention span of people. Because remember, you have to be able to judge the attention span if people will be able to absorb what might be slightly misunderstood or not completely understood, but worth further research. And some people just don't have the ability to remember, right? Or the ability to take notes in such a way where they actually could go back and sufficiently remake the questioning and the insights. Parbone, you said, do you think learn your word is learn your word is bond versus heard your word is born? I'm not sure how you mean that. I don't know, kind of phrase that for me in such a way where what do you mean by the difference? You know what I mean? Malik, it cannot be proven that he was speaking to a particular judge, but it certainly is not logical that it was between Elijah and him. Okay? It's not logical. So it can't be Elijah. It's not the way that the conversation is going. Right? Not okay, you said what do you think about the difference? Which way is more impactful from your understanding? Well, if somebody was referring to somebody else, like I learned your word is bond or I heard your word is bond, um, is that how you mean it? Is that how you mean it? I'm not sure. Because to me, I don't really care how people perceive my word. I have so much I have so many proofs out there. It doesn't, it doesn't matter how people will phrase it. You know what I mean? And for myself, I didn't need to learn that my word is bond. Oh, okay. So I have such a rigidity to the degree, Powerborn. I wasn't thinking that you're trying to alter the degree. Um, I could see how you could see it that way. Um, as far as seeing it though, have you not heard that your word is bond? Um, I always think of it like a student though. They haven't heard that principle yet. You know what I'm saying? Right. But if you're saying it to yourself, you might be saying that. Have you not learned yet that your word is bond? You know what I mean? I get the difference because the emphasis is greater now. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my god, this is that movie. Oh, it's really
A lot of people ask for that G1. I'll learn it though. I just haven't learned it. I haven't done it yet. So, I would have to go learn it, which probably isn't that hard and everything like that. But that's really why I don't do it. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah. But the thing is, in the emphasis though, the point is that heard. The point is that it's re-emphasized of a truth. You know what I mean? And once that emphasis, that truth is re-emphasized, that's really the potency of the degree in being repeated in the mind. You know what I mean? Right? Right. Of course, as a mental cue, I couldn't argue with that mental cue being more potent that way. You know what I mean? Because CBUX, where the term God body originated from, people, it's really, the streets adapting to how they're learning. And I think a lot of it adapts because they couldn't accept, a lot of people knew that we were the gods, but they couldn't really accept that we're saying we are God. So they're just bodies of people that say that they're God. So it become God bodies. So it's certainly not a complete correct term. It's a little bit, slightly degrades a little bit.
the guy became that guy.
Malik, you said parts of, what made him deviate from talking to Elijah and then judge? What you're not getting, Malik, is that these are teachings, right?
Not naked.
All right. Okay. So the 136 becomes a teaching tool, right? So these are teaching tools that are being taught to Elijah as they're being taught to said students, whatever students that Fard saw as the ones to teach. You know what I mean? So this conversation becomes, it wouldn't be a logical conversation that would happen because he's responding him to him as a title. So it wouldn't make sense in that kind of way. You know what I mean? Right. Because read through the 1 to 36 again. There is an official tone, and it's a tone that not of submission, but of basically official etiquette that doesn't make sense for a teacher to a student in that fashion. It is a little bit different. You know what I mean? And it becomes a conversation that becomes memorized, it becomes used because it shared so much and was indicative of the forces that were in play. but it doesn't make sense as like something that would have been a direct teacher to student conversation. That, and that's what I mean. Justice, what explains roughly 900 years that are not accounted for and 50,000 19 years ago mentioned? I, man, I need time in the blackboard, but that has to do with typos, literally. So I'll leave it at that. Typo. Um, Jarrell, you said this brings to mind a question I was thinking of the other day. Are the degrees different from the supreme wisdom to the interpretation, due to interpretation of self-styled wisdom of the Father? Certain aspects are different, and that's why I've been teaching, right? But brings rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes. That's not the original. It's what brings, right? The Father changed that, right? Father of civilization is not in the degree, in the original degree in the NOI. So these are things that would change. Okay. Cymatic reality said listening is an action. Knowledge is being born to wisdom, and wisdom is a manifestation of what we have learned. Okay, I get what you're saying. That's not today's math, but I see where you're trying to go with that. All right. Yeah, Malik, the sound went out because I took it out on purpose for something I was saying. Um, to people having fun here, they're a little loud, but oh, absolutely, 793rd, yes. Right, potent is the word. Potent is the word.
Now, I'm losing control. Mr. Hawk, stop. No, I have to do it. I'm sorry. Mr. Hawk is so energized he can't stop coughing. Mr. Hawk.
All right. We got 10 minutes here. I'll be here for 10 more minutes. Um, Let me know if you have any other questions about anything.
Oh, what's this? Hey, what's your salad? What about how much of the place so back now? I want to say, you to be amazing.
All right.
Sure, what about Chinese food? White rice for me? I don't care, cook again.
G1, interesting question. If I was a style of music, I made up a element in hip hop. You know, like I created an element in hip hop. I'm definitely hip hop. You know what I mean? This hip hop writer element of writing about music and making it creative, injecting creative prose and poetry inside the technical works of hip hop journalism and music review and analysis. I made that up. Like nobody ever did that. So I gotta pick hip hop first, right? But it's a cool question. Subscriber 10304. So you out here at Stanton, so you should be contacting me to build, right? About this martial arts. You said you never went. I'm assuming that means went to a law school in Brooklyn, which is Medina. Is there a reason why? That tech? Well, no, that's not true. I have gone there. I didn't go there when I was getting the knowledge because the person that first told me about the nation directly when I was directly aware of it though was Sunez Allah, and he was from Mecca. He lived very close to the law school of Mecca. Right. That's why when you see me hit writing, you see the histories of me speaking on my history in videos. When I say I never went to a law school in Medina, it doesn't mean I never went there. It means I didn't go there when I was going to get the knowledge, because I was brought to a law school in Mecca. That's the answer. You know. So that they're a well display of awareness of one's power on this day of knowledge freedom. Interesting way of people would bulk with that 793 because you said it backwards. You know, it was like a Yoda build. You know, Malik, you said what is a practical way to look at the diameter of 7,926 miles? I don't get too complicated like I used to with stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? The reason I don't when we talk about like stuff like that. Dumar had the greatest builds about the 7 is from this degree, the 9 is from that degree, to like things like that. I keep it simple. The diameter is the surrounding reality of the earth. Of how to, it's our reality as God borning the wisdom of what? Of equality around that reality, the reality of the earth. So when you see things simple, basic, that's something complicated. You know what I mean? Right. Of course they can be, and if you want to associate things with this is what it means to experiment in your laboratory. If it is something, if it brings out principles that you can understand, then then you can see it. G1, you said you still go to rap shows. I quote Uncle John and Flanagan. Peace to Flanagan. I just wrote a review of his album. Again, and if you see that, you see what I mean by my own element. Very, and Uncle John, that's the God. One of the most eclectic and dynamic, and Flanagan really, really charismatic and very lyrical. The more that you listen closely, the God Salim, he manages for him, and he invited me out there, but it was Thursday, and I only do this on Thursday. I don't try to jump into too many things. And honestly, I had the class, even though I was here. The next day, I had to pick up my daughter early, so I no way I could have made it, and just really be alert for it, but I do go to shows. I haven't really gone to shows much because of COVID and everything like that. Not really because of COVID, because of mandates and the trouble it is. You know what I mean? But soon enough, I'll be able to go back to shows and stuff like that. You know, because I don't really need to go to shows to meet up with the artists and stuff like that. I go because I want to enjoy it. When I go to shows, you don't see me film stuff. I don't go look for interviews. I'll build with certain artists all the time, of course, because I know them. But I don't go there to document directly. I go there to document my experience and still try to enjoy it though. A lot of times, even when most times now I could get backstage to most things, but I deliberately go to the front and I try to watch the show directly as an observer. It's just a different experience. So I don't want to see people. I've never enjoyed shows looking at the back of somebody's head, even though that's where I always can end up. You know what I mean? I always get backstage. You know what I mean? I'd rather go backstage after it's done, but I love to experience it. You know what I mean? Why would I go there and have to go out late and all that kind of stuff? Sweat out my polo. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm not doing that. LT, peace. All right. Have you heard any history on when and why the father changed the degree for what? But yes. Good question. I've said this many times. Firstborn Prince Allah told me this, and it was because every time that he would build with the gods and ask him if they did this, that, particular things that he wanted them to do, they always answered but. So he was like, but brings rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes. You know what I mean? So that's where the but comes from. The but brings. He's like, again, the father was a master teacher, and his rapport with the gods was amazing. And that was another way of digging into him without, what I mean, like making it right. And see, that's why, like, when people say, oh, refinement, that wasn't put in there and everything like that. But the way that refinement is put in there, and the story that Umala, told me personally and told others, is the same pedagogical technique that I just shared with But brings rain, hail, snow, earthquakes. So that was constantly, a thing he did. All right. Subscriber 10304, you said that's peace. Are you into MMA or just traditional martial arts? I don't bear witness to anything. MMA, there's no such thing as MMA versus traditional martial arts. Kung Fu is everything, and it adapts and blends in everything. MMA is more, to me, more rigid than that, right? And for example, it might take three disciplines and put them together, right? But more so, the reason I disagree with like the concept of MMA is that when we watch MMA on TV, we're watching fighters of an extreme level of physical ability, but very little technique. At the same time, when you're looking at the MMA mentality, those physiques, the abilities, it's really based on extremities. And that's not really the martial way, the Chinese way. Uh, you don't see a philosophy of longevity and health and all these things. And that's because they're paid fighting arts. And so a lot of that is robbed of it. You know what I mean? So that is a much different thing. Many of those fighters may become martial artists in that sense, much more fluidly than, say, another person. But that's another story. But a lot of times I don't really learn too much from MMA because they're such physical specimens that whatever they do often doesn't have technique and stuff. You know what I mean? And also in most of the fighting arts, though, they favor brutality. So they favor moves that would not be the most useful. You know? Skipping forward there because you said, what about yoga? Well, yoga is not part of the traditional martial arts discipline, though. But these ideas of positions and breath work, these are all within the Qigong lane, breath work, right? So that they would be useful and be applicable. Right? Right. That's peace at LT. You can always rewind. Okay, no problem. No. I start reading everything. Right. Have I heard the RZA album? It's a short album. I think it only had 6 songs, I think, and I loved it. It had 6 songs, and 4 of them I thought were incredible, and I loved it. I thought it was great. You know, Riz is a personal favorite of mine, so as an MC, I love him as an MC. He's especially when he's really getting deep with it. So it's great. You know. All right. So with that said, I'm gonna let everybody go. If you're interested to build me or ask me other questions about anything, just email me. All right. And for those who have my math, just uh, just text me. All right. All right. I want to thank you all for doing the knowledge. It's been 2 months though, but soon enough I'll be back at the school. Okay. All right. Peace.